So we're going to go through the process of making beer. Usually about 4 weeks to get a good beer out of it. It all starts with this thing here. It's, as you can see, a converted cooler box. And this is where we put the grain in. All beer is made from barley. So we put it in here, let it sit in some hot water for an hour or so, and then all the sugars come out of the barley. They can come out, and it goes out through the bottom there. So that's the sweet liquid, the word it's called, that we've taken out of the barley. We're going to boil that, put a load of hops in at different stages. If you prefer your beer a bit more bitter, put hops in at the beginning. If you prefer your beer a bit more aromatic, put them in at the end. Of course you can go for a combination of the two, and it all adds to the sort of overall impression of the beer. When that's done, we can't put yeast in something that's 100 degrees because all the yeast will die and you won't get a fermentation. And so to get that down from 100 degrees to 20 degrees, we put that in, cold water in one of those, and the water goes all the way around through the thin copper wall, takes in a lot of the temperature, a lot of the heat from the water, and hot or warm water comes out there. So you can generally take something of that size from 100 to 20 degrees in about 40 minutes or an hour. That's obviously much better than leaving it overnight or just leaving it in a ton of cold water, because when beer cools slowly at this stage, you end up with a lot of proteins in it, and all these proteins contribute to haze in a beer. So when you get your pint in a bar, it's crystal clear. That's because it's been cooled as quickly as possible to give you that nice, clear, crisp finish to it. So when we've got our liquid in there, full of all this sweet juice we've got from the grains, full of all these hops, we just put it into this. This is a fermentation vessel, and we can do things to it at that stage in terms of if we've got not enough sugar in it, we can measure that. We can measure that with something called a hydrometer. Looks quite a technical piece of kit, but all it really is doing is just measuring the density of the sugar in the water, tell you how much is there. So you can add sugar, add water to get to the sugar level you want, because that's what's going to turn into alcohol. And when most people think about homebrew, that's really what they're after, is cheap alcohol. So when it's in this bucket, this is what we're going to ferment it in. So we've got this sweet liquid in here, hoppy liquid, and we need to put some yeast in. So when we put it in, we need to make sure that everything's super clean, because we're trying to grow a microorganism. We don't want other bacteria, other yeasts in there especially. So it's always cleaned up to quite a high standard. The lid's cleaned, all these pieces are cleaned with sterilising solutions. And then put the yeast in, and it can ferment for a week to 3 weeks. And of course during that time we've got to be measuring things. So measuring temperature there. This is a thermostatic heater, so you can keep it at precisely 18 degrees, precisely 16, precisely 10 degrees, whatever you need. And this here allows a bit of fluid to sit in there, so the carbon dioxide can get out, because it's constantly blowing off gas, but no bacteria, no other organisms can get in. And so when you hear about homebrewing accidents, homebrew explosions, that's because they don't have one of these, or it's become blocked for some reason, where the carbon dioxide just builds up inside and blows the top off. But luckily, never had any of that happen. These are the bottles that I use. We usually label them. I haven't got any label today because they've all gone to other people as gifts and as, well, payment. So pop it in here, add a tiny bit more sugar. The yeast keeps going in these bottles. It's like, unlike the beer that you get in, say, I don't know, a lager or something you buy off the shelf at Tesco, this has still got bits of yeast in. It's called bottle conditioning. So in here we can put that sugar in. The yeast has a go at it, makes a tiny bit more alcohol, but more importantly, a lot more carbon dioxide. So every time you open one of these, having put in flat beer, you get something a bit more carbonated. Now this is just a light-bodied, lightly carbonated beer, 5.5%, ideal for quaffing easily for a night out. Bits from the last one I brewed, and that is what you end up with.